Good morning, this is latest market news. I'm Uliana. Asian share markets mostly fell on Friday on concerns over heightened tensions in the Ukraine, while Japanese stocks moved higher. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rose 0.7%. In other markets, the Shanghai Composite was 0.17% lower, while Australia's market was closed for a public holiday. The Nikkei 225 rose 0.63%. Overnight, US stocks finished largely higher on solid US durable goods data, with the Dow 30 was unchanged. The S&P 500 index rose 0.17%, while the Nasdaq Composite Index rose 0.52%. Geopolitical tensions took the luster out of positive US data and the Apple earnings, sending investors chasing safe haven positions outside of equities markets. Overnight, the dollar traded lower against most major currencies after tensions between Russia and the Ukraine flared anew, prompting investors to avoid the green week and fears the US may be dragged deeper into the crisis. Ukraine military forces killed 5 separatists earlier, while Russian President Vladimir Putin warned Kyiv against stepping up its offensive against the rebels, sparkling fears the US will slap fresh sanctions on Moscow and turn the standoff up a notch. Australian dollar US dollar traded at 0.9271, up 0.09%, and Euro US dollar held at 1.3835, up 0.02%. US April University of Michigan Survey of Consumers 1355 GMT. The final reading for April's consumer sentiment is expected to reach 83.0, the highest reading since last summer. Robust retail sales in March, improving labor market, and the stock market at all-time highs should push up consumer optimism. But it should be noted that the sentiment index is getting near the higher end of its multi-year range. The Citigroup US Economic Surprise Index still remains at depressed levels, near the lows seen in 2013 and 2012, and has plenty of room to improve now that the weather effects are finally behind us. It was the latest market news provided by ICO FX. Goodbye.